Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and joining me once again, my co-host, Grapeviney. Good evening, Grapeviney. Oh,
good evening, Andy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I had your channel turned down, so I couldn't hear you for a sec. And back by popular demand, you might know him from Twitter as @DemonBlog or from Demonland.com as Super Mikado. Good evening, Super Mikado.
Gents, it's lovely to be with you again in another of these soon-to-be less rare weeks where it's a good time to be a Melbourne fan.
Yeah, well, I've been soaking it up and enjoying it while the going is good. If you would like to join our program tonight to discuss any of the topics that we talk about, you can give us a call on 0390163666, or you can Skype us at Demonland31. If you're listening live, you can join us in our chat room and you can ask us questions or post a comment by heading over to demonland.com/podcast. If you're listening to us at a later date via SoundCloud or from our website or via our iTunes podcast, you can subscribe to the show and receive updates when a new show drops. Don't forget to leave us a favourable review to help more people find us. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Demonland31, on Twitter at Demonland, on Instagram at Demonland31, or YouTube. Just search Demonland Podcast and listen to some of the great interviews we've conducted with current and past players and coaches. Or if you just love talking about the Ds 24/7 all year round, why not join up to Demonland.com and chat with other Ds fans in the asylum? It's completely free. And now, with all of that out of the way, how did you guys enjoy your week off? Was that strange, or are you used to not doing anything in September?
No, look, it was just the anticipation is building. I think it's great that we get the week off and the team need it. But gee, it's a long time to wait. And I don't know, does it hurt us momentum-wise in that we were playing great footy and now we've had to stop for a week?
Yeah, I don't love the idea of, I think momentum's a big thing. I guess you got to weigh up how good's the rest. Do we need it? Are there injuries? Maybe with the whole Viney situation, the extra week helps us. But I tend to think the momentum is a good thing. And is that going to hurt us? Well, we'll see on Friday night. What do you think, Super Mikado?
Yeah, I'd rather keep the momentum up as well. Look, I can't say I've paid all that much attention to the whatever it is they do in September for the last since at the end of 2006. But I sort of look back to 2000 where we got on a roll straight through the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season that time, and just straight into the finals. So we got ourselves, I think I must have got a week off after we beat Carlton, but nevertheless, we got on a roll. I would prefer to just get on a roll. In this case, it's probably worked for us a bit in that you've got Viney, you've got potentially Tyson, although I'm not quite sure how both of them would play. You've got those options that you wouldn't have had a week earlier. And at the same time, look, I've been reveling in the media extravaganza that has been the Melbourne Football Club this week. The Melbourne Football Club media curse is something I think we've probably all different factions of Melbourne fans have different names for. But I'm kind of enjoying the fact that this week we're sort of stuffing as much as we possibly can in to try and overload it so it doesn't come back and haunt us. We've just had so much media. I just would like to think that this will be the death of the media curse. So I've enjoyed it for that reason, but ultimately I would have preferred just to roll straight into the first week of the finals after the last week of footy.
We've sort of been, talking about the media, we've sort of been the media darlings this week. We're sort of the feel-good story, I think, going into the finals. Everyone loves everyone loves an underdog, and it seems that a lot of sort of, the majority of people whose teams aren't in the finals are sort of getting on board a little bit. There's always going to be those, sour grapes people that want to see us fail, but I think there's a lot of people wanting the Ds to do well.
The Herald Sun had like their expert panel today predicting the grand finalists, the premiers, the Brownlow medalists, Norm Smith and things like that. And quite a number of them had us finishing runners-up. No one tipped us for the flag, but quite a few of us had us playing off in the big dance. So there's definitely a belief out there that we can go deep.
I think that goes to show what the credence that's put in momentum at the end of the season, especially after the Bulldogs. I think that they obviously lost the last game of that year, but then they got on a roll in the finals, and people are looking to that as well in this situation.
So Super Magato, you weren't on last week. We discussed the finals ticket fiasco. Now, I was lucky enough, and I know Great Viney was lucky enough by about 9:04, 9:05. We had our tickets. I was none the wiser that there was the possibility that there could be a fiasco, and I didn't even know that there was, at the time, people having trouble getting onto the site and getting tickets. Now, it wasn't until I read your Twitter feed and saw the misery that you were going through on that day and the next day. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your day, or have you put that behind you?
Well, as you can probably hear from my voice, I'm still suffering from the physical and emotional after effects of my day and a half of hell with Ticketek. And I'd like to thank you for having me back on after suspending me last week when I threatened to defame their entire executive leadership team and board live on the air. So I've pledged not to do that this week. I did go on at 9 o'clock, and I got put in a queue, and that's pretty much.
Wait, did you call up? Did you use the phone?
No, Christ, no. On the website.
And you were in a queue on the website.
Oh, was I? What?
Wow.
There were 2 queues.
I didn't realise there was a queue.
You had to get through one queue just to get to the Ticketek website, which at that point, if you'd gone on to book tickets to, I eventually saw the other things that were available to buy tickets to. Phil Collins Live, eSports, Mrs. Brown's Boys, all this kind of rubbish. So you had to get through one queue just to get to that page. And obviously the first time after, 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is of being in this initial queue of thousands of people are trying to buy tickets right now, this page will reload every 15 seconds.
Wait, were you punching in a barcode prior to that? Was that
no?
No,
so the barcodes yet.
Wow, because I got straight to the barcodes.
Yep. This was just I was straight in. I had to extract myself from somebody who was supposed to be training me on how to use something.
Yeah.
So I probably missed a minute or two after 9 o'clock that proved decisive, rather than just jumping in right off the bat. And so then it loaded. Here's Ticketek. What do you want to buy? Probably 40 minutes later, half an hour later, after a couple of crashes, back to the start of the queue, starting to see on Twitter that a few people were having problems and thinking, oh, God, this is going to be me as well. And so when it popped up, hi, this is Ticketek, what do you want to buy? I thought, you beauty, we're through here. Click the AFL link. Second loading screen. Thousands of AFL fans are transacting right now, which is a strange thing to say. You're in the queue again. Now, this queue reloaded every 5 seconds. So it was a lesser queue, but again, it just kept going and going and going. And now I probably didn't help, and a lot of people probably didn't help by the fact that I was trying to get on an iPad, a phone, and a PC. So no bloody wonder the thing was, oversubscribed when people do. I had one person I saw on Twitter who had, I've got 5 devices going at once and it's not working. And it's kind of like, yeah, I understand why you would do that because we've got no confidence in it working when you're loading 3 games at once. But we're also probably not helping the situation by doing that. And then probably an hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour into the thing, it came up with, what game would you like? And, oh, yes, I would like Melbourne Geelong. Here is my barcode, which surprisingly worked because I wouldn't be surprised if at that point it hadn't. At which point it said, please log into your Ticketek account, which I subsequently realised that I didn't know the password for. So that was on me.
That's a rookie mistake because I made sure I logged in before.
Yes, I will absolutely wear that. And now, of course, the reset my password button was under as much strain as the rest of the site, so that just didn't work. You just clicked it and nothing happened. But what it actually let me do was just start a whole new account, which is like, can we use some of that processing power to concentrate on actually selling people the tickets? And that would have cost me if they hadn't let people do that, but that would have been my fault. So anyway, went back to there, had to go back to the start of the queue again. Eventually, what tickets would you like? Came up on the mobile, PC, still in the first queue. So the mobile had worked, so it was sort of, and I was going blind because you couldn't actually tell what area of the ground. You could pick your stand, but you couldn't, it didn't show which category was in which part of the stand. And now if you're like a Geelong fan or a Hawthorn fan, you've probably bought 50 finals tickets over the years. Oh, yeah, category C. Yep, I'll be sitting right here. No idea. So I'm just guessing. Pick the tickets. No tickets available. I'm like, sorry, no tickets. We're like 45 minutes into selling the entire. I went in order of my preferred stands: Ponsford stand, Olympic stand, and then regrettably the Southern stand, and no tickets at all. And it's like, well, I know there are tickets. This is ridiculous, and this is the point where I've started to see on Twitter people coming in on the Melbourne Football Club Twitter, like, what's going on? And people were going crazy. And obviously it wasn't Melbourne's fault. And I must say that the guys who did run that, the Melbourne Twitter feed, did a great job keeping people from jumping out the window over those couple of days, as opposed to the people from the Ticketek Twitter feed, who I feel extremely sorry for, especially the bit where they sent out the tweet going, "Thanks for your patience, guys. Everything's back up and running again."
No.
Which it obviously wasn't. And it had about 400 replies within about 5 minutes. And then about 5 minutes later, the AFL was like, "No, we've suspended ticket sales." So I was still trying to rock it on 3 different devices. And I still tried a few more times before they officially confirmed that it was going to be given the boot, and just kept getting to that same screen again. Pick your tickets. Nah, there aren't any tickets. So I came back the next day, and I was pretty confident it was going to work this time because if we were the first game up, I would have been stressed. But when the Richmond Hawthorn one went all right, I thought, yeah, this is fine. So I got to 1 o'clock, all this time I'm still working. So, it's not easy to, make sure your calendar's free at particular times of the day. Sacking meetings left, right, and centre to make sure you've got time to go on multiple devices and buy finals tickets. And so I went in and it put me in the queue, and I'm like, all right, yes, there's probably, and then it crashed. And I'm like, you're kidding, not again. And so, all right, I'll try it, I'll refresh, and crashed a second time. And by this time, I was ready to pick up someone else's computer, a workplace's computer, and throw it through the window because you can't do this again. But fortunately, again, I was only working a 2-device strategy this time, but much like the first day, while the computer desktop one was still spinning in the first queue, the mobile came good, and because I'd had time to do my research now on where each ticket was by the times where I'd got through to the final stage in the PC one eventually and it hadn't worked, I was able to efficiently purchase my ticket, get a ticket where I wanted it, and complete the transaction. Thank God. They obviously waived the $7.50 admin fee. I'm not sure if they'll go back and waive it for you retrospectively.
No, they haven't.
If you're lucky on the first day, you were just like bad luck, you got your tickets, we're not giving you $7.50 back. And then the last moment of panic was when on the ticket it said my section was like SQ33. And I'm like, what the hell's SQ33?
You're watching from Waverley Park.
Yeah, like, does that mean standing room, or does that mean, halfway behind the scoreboard or something? But a helpful MCC employee on my Twitter feed just confirmed that means section. So that was a rookie ticket buying error, because obviously if you've booked tickets before, you would know what that meant. I can't even remember booking tickets last time, I must say. 2006, can't remember what I did. Can't remember if I went somewhere, went on the internet, called someone, but I remember, wasn't this bloody traumatic, I'll tell you. But I certainly know if it had gone back to the 1998 version of going to the Arts Centre, Ticket Master, Bass, Ticketek, whatever it was, and just standing in a queue, ditching year 11 to stand in a queue, and actually just hand money to someone behind a counter who then printed a ticket and handed the ticket back to you. That was a far less traumatic experience, and I would like to go back to that next year. So that is it. I finally got in. I'm in the Ponsford stand. I'm not in row MM. I'm right down the front near the scoreboard, so if anyone sees someone going absolutely off their trolley as the scoreboard is shown at the Ponsford stand, and that is most likely me.
So what they've now said, I saw this morning. Well, I've seen this a few times. That it's almost sold out. I think there was 1,000 tickets, general public tickets, but I believe there's still AFL members public. So there'll probably be empty seats in the AFL members reserve up the top there. But other than that, it's they're predicting 90,000. So it's been a while since we've had a crowd of that magnitude. So yeah, it's going to be a great atmosphere there, and I can't wait. Now, with that out of the way, so are you over that traumatic experience?
I still hate Tick Attack with a passion, and I certainly won't be booking tickets to Phil Collins Esports or the Cranky Sisters, the Kransky Sisters anytime soon. But yeah, all's well that ends well. I'm in, and as long as my ticket actually scans and doesn't turn out to have accidentally been given to me for a Sydney GWS game or something, I should be fine.
I wonder if they're going to have these problems next week. Well, we're taking it 1 week at a time, but let's hope they've ironed everything out now. But then again, hasn't this happened the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I think it happens every year.
Yeah, we've just been so out of the loop. It's
yeah, well, what would we know? But I mean, who thought? And I'm sure, I don't know if it's the AFL Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster is apparently quite good for Collingwood and West Coast fans, or the MCC. But whoever decided let's just sell all these games at the same time was a lunatic.
Yeah,
it's just an insane decision, especially when you had a whole week.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were going Monday morning 9 a.m. First game's on Thursday night. Let's get on with it. Get a whole week. You could have done one. You could have done Hawthorn Richmond on the Monday.
The Monday should have been
the
Hawthorn
Tuesday or the Wednesday.
Exactly.
You could have done one a day.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure the Sydney game's not going to be. Well, they might be a sellout, but it's not as big it's not a 90,000 game.
About the poor 114 GWS fans who were trying to buy tickets and couldn't get through. They would have been devastated.
That handful of
just
people.
Had to go and hang around outside AFL HQ and just get a free ticket given to them like every other GWS game. Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see whether they can fill out the SCG. You'd think that would be that game would be.
They'll be papering tickets like nobody's business. If that's not going to sell out, there'll be a free ticket. There'll be one for mum, one for dad, one for the kids, and people will be getting paid to go to see it.
All right, so that's the ticket fiasco. Well, let's put it behind us, and hopefully there's no issues next week. Now, there was an interesting article on not interesting, but on the AFL.com website in regards to the 12 years of misery revisited, otherwise known as the Cliff Notes of your book. That 12 years of misery that we've revisited, how does it feel? Because you're quite familiar with that period. How does it feel to finally have that all behind us?
Well, I thought they were very succinct in their post. It told the main story quite accurately, and as usually happens whenever a post goes up about our years of misery, the old Fisted Forever Files page with all the bad happenings from 07 to 14, I think, got another run on the internet. Look, it's good to be positive, and I just think it's a real shame that Fox Footy put the Mark Neal thing on last night. You can't tell me that was just happened to be, we were just going to happen to have him on this week. I reckon they probably called him 2 weeks ago and went, "You beauty, we can make a ruckus here." And I personally refuse to watch it. I'll watch it in 2 or 3 months' time when I'm desperate for footy content and I'm not thinking so much about this season because I don't want to. I actually, and I've made almost my entire gimmick is misery of the 2007 to 2017 era. I really just want to look forward at the moment. I want to look forward to this Friday night. If it all goes right, then beautiful. We keep looking forward. If it all goes wrong, we just look at this season and we can go back and, lay the mockery on choices of captains and the like 10 years ago. It's however long we'll see. It feels like 10 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I think there's time for that later. But now, I think it's really good to focus on where we're at now.
Grapeviney, did you watch the Mark Neild interview last night?
I didn't watch the Neild interview, and I didn't read the 12 Years of Misery. I haven't participated in any of the look-back activities that have been taking place this week in the media, and I actually sort of failed to understand how anyone can have any interest for any of that at this particular juncture when we're a few days out from a final. I don't necessarily think that they're out to, cause a ruckus or do anything like that. It's an opportune time for the media to pick through the carcass of the club over the past decade, but I don't know why the supporters why we'd go back there. So I certainly agree with Colin, who posted enough with the past. Let's get into the present. So I concur with Super Mikado on that front.
I don't think they were deliberately trying to bring us down. I think it's just, as you say, capitalising on the fact that it's the talk of the town this week, and they know that all the eyeballs would be on it. And it certainly provoked a reaction from Brad Green and Brent Maloney, I see. But look, I think there was time for a Melbourne Football Club Truth and Reconciliation Commission where we all, got everyone in a room and they punched each other until the truth came out. But it's not 4 days or 3 days before our first final in 12 years. It was about 3 years ago, I think. Or it's 10 years in the future or 5 years in the future. It's definitely not right now. So, yes, agree. Very much happy to concentrate on the future. But at the same time, if you want to concentrate on the past, please feel free to buy my book.
Where can they find your book? May as well throw that out there now.
Demonblog.com or demonwiki.org.
Excellent reading if you want if you want to relive those days. But those days are behind us. I understand why AFL.com.au is sort of picking through the bones of those 12 years of misery as we're sort of embarking on the next chapter. But let's put it all behind us. And as there was a post on Demonland this week, enough with the past already. And let's concentrate on this exciting future ahead of us.
If our recent record against Geelong is anything to go by, there'll be a moment of misery and depression in the finals instead of just it all happening in the home and away season.
Well, let's hope we can change that narrative of the last two games against the Cats and hopefully get that extra goal. Grapeviner, you were saying?
One of the good things about the media coverage the past 1.5 weeks, isn't it great to have multiple articles about your club in the paper on the same day? I don't know if anyone's been reading the Herald Sun, but that's one of the, benefits and joys of being in September action.
Yeah, when I was younger, I always enjoyed September because they're not focusing on, 10 of the other clubs or 8 of the other clubs or whatever it was that missed the finals. Focusing on the teams that's in it. And the last however many years, 12 years we haven't been there, September's been hell for me. I don't want to look at the paper, and it's good to be in the mix again, and let's hope we're still in the mix in a couple of weeks' time. We'll move on from the misery. We had 3 Ds in the 22 under 22. Is there anything? One
of the most prestigious teams going around on that one.
Do they play the All-Australian team as a curtain raiser or something?
No, I don't. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing actually the 20. Someone said, I think it was on SEN. They said, would the All-Australian team, the 22 under 22, beat the All-Australian team? So that would be interesting. And who would Clary play for?
He could tag himself.
Well, there's also, because we've had the 22 over 30, so I'm waiting for the 22 between 22 and 30, yes. And then maybe the three teams could do a round robin series perhaps and get a premiere that way.
Well,
the Benson and Hedges World Series Cup style.
Yeah.
I thought I saw that 22 over 30, and I thought Nathan Jones made it, but I thought Jordan Lewis was very stiff not to make it. In particular, Mark Murphy made it ahead of him, and I think Mark Murphy was on one leg for most of the year, so go figure.
Geordie's had a pretty good year, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. You might disagree, Super Mercado. I know you've been a bit hard on him at times.
I actually think the last few weeks, and I think since Vince went out, that Lewis has not stepped up specifically, but his role has become so much more important. And I think he's been really good the last few weeks, and I think that goes to the theory that you couldn't play both of them effectively. And I think Bernie's pulled the pin. He's out at the end of the year. Then I think there's definitely. I mean, there was already a case. He wasn't going anywhere, but I've got more confidence in Lewis going into next year than I would have if we'd been playing both of them.
Well, that was the next topic we're going to talk about. Bernie Vince retiring. It's look. A huge thank you to Bernie. Came sort of club. We were on our knees at the time, came over to the D's, and I think he's been very good for us. Seems to be a great clubman. All the players love him. Gorney wrote an article about Vince and the contribution that he's made. Thank you, Bernie Vince, for all that. Do you think he'll stick around at the club in some capacity, or is that it?
Well, I think he's just set up a real estate agency, or joined one, or taken over one. So I think he's got his post footy career set. But yeah, what a super trooper over the years that he was at the club. Won a B&F and really helped bridge us between the dark and the light times. And in a way, he's he's the reverse of the Jack Watts coin, isn't he? He's the other side of the coin. Watts got a great attitude to life off the field, wasn't able to bring it on the field. Bernie got a similar sort of, or you get a sense that he's got a similar balance in his life off the field, and a really good approach to things, but absolutely a competitor once he crossed the white line. And the theme that seemed to emerge from the club talking about him was that he always knew what he was going to bring. What a champ. Great that he got to 100 games at the club too. So that gets him a life membership and his name on the locker, which he deserves.
And I think what people, outsiders who, should they be listening, need to understand is that you look at this year, you've got Carlton supposedly going to get Mitch McGovern. St Kilda might be getting Jared Polak. Gold Coast's not getting anyone. They're just getting ransacked left, right and centre. But even Brisbane, Lachie Neale, go back to this era with us. Actually getting someone like Bernie Vince was like hitting the jackpot for us at that point, because we'd gone through Mitch Clark, which hadn't worked for, multiple reasons. This was just like, it wasn't, show stopping. It wasn't like signing a Buddy Franklin or something, but it was getting that good, solid player who we knew was just going to come straight into a rock-bottom side and just instantly boost it. And so if he was the kind of guy to say, nah, I don't want to go to that team, they wouldn't have forced him. So, it's really to his credit that he chose to come to a team that was absolutely filth. And he did such a good job. Obviously won the B&F. This year probably started to dip, but even then I thought he played more good games than bad games this year. But it's just such a credit to say that, he accepted coming to us when we were at rock bottom. We paid basically nothing for him. Pick 23, I think, the compensation pick for Colin Sylvia. So we won on that one. And we just got great service out of him. So I really, really appreciate what he's done for the club. And look, it's a shame, though I do see today that he's making a massive recovery in from his injury. So he could very well play for Casey next week. So he is there as an option should anything go wrong. Probably unlikely now that you've got Joel Smith back, you've got Jaden Hunt back. But if we make it through and need it, he could be a surprise return.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised actually to hear that he could be back as early as next week in the two. So yeah, if he can get back on the park, then he's definitely in the mix there. But it'll be a tough road to get into the team, but he's there. Grapeviney, you want to say?
Yeah, Bidman makes a good point in the chat room that the mark of the man is how well he played for Casey. And I certainly saw one of the games that he played for Casey, and he was sensational. But he was also really important for supporter and club morale in those first couple of years of the Roos era. He was able to go on the footy show. He was funny. You've got to remember this is pre-Max, busting out of his shell. And we didn't really have anyone that could do that at that time. So I think he was important in so many ways. So it's not surprising that supporters are so grateful for his contribution.
And let's not forget the first year of Paul Roos, we obviously were significantly better on field, and the second year as well. But those 2 years, we were scoring nothing, especially 2014. I think we scored less than 2013. We conceded about 10,000 points less. So overall better. But to have the players like that, and that was where, like Dom Tyson, his first season, or his second season, was his first season or his second season, sorry, first season with us, to suddenly have those players like Daniel Cross, who were actually exciting to watch, even though we weren't really scoring that much. Like, if anyone brought the game into disrepute for the excitement value, it was probably us in that season. That was really important in just bridging the gap between the real terrible era and the era of improvement that started in 2014 and then really sort of got going in 15 and 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Bernie Vince, the 100 games, I think that makes him eligible for father-son. We also have another possible...
And they announced today that they're pregnant, Bernie and his wife.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't know that.
Just only a few hours ago.
Oh, well, there you go. So, let's hope we can get... I don't know, I always love the prospect of father-son. I don't think it works out necessarily every single time, but options always there.
We're in the mix.
We're in the mix. So the other mother-son / mother-daughter, Daisy Pearce, announces she's pregnant with twins, and I believe she'll miss the next season, which... well, it's great for her that she's going to have a baby or babies, but the D's girls team's going to suffer for that. But yeah, the prospect. Have they talked about mother, daughter, mother, son? Is that a thing?
We could one of both.
Yeah.
And she's a midwife, Daisy, so I wonder she's probably talented enough to deliver her own babies.
If not, she'll be delivering a captain-style performance in the hospital while the delivery is going on, just giving the midwife the talk and making sure she's comfortable and everything in doing the delivery. It's certainly one of the more... I won't say bizarre, because this is actually a good reason, but one of the stranger things we've ever had anyone go out with.
Out with pregnancy.
It's probably harking back to the days when, the players would, Jeff Collins went off and flew fighter jets in the Korean War for a while and then popped back and started playing footy again.
Yeah. What are the injury list? Should we put her on the long-term injury list? Is that
well,
is that an option?
I'm not sure. She'll have to come up with some fake complication to then count it as an injury to go on the long-term injury list. Obviously, yeah, it's excellent news for her. You wouldn't begrudge her and her partner to that, but it is a big, given that they already lost Mel Hickey last year. It's a big loss for the women's team, and I think I'm a bit concerned now that that team, they've had those couple of years where they've gone within touching distance of the grand final and missed, and now you got the extra teams coming in. You've already lost one of the best players. Now you lose another one of the best players, and the talent pool is going to dilute. I'm probably a bit concerned for the future of the women's team next season.
Yeah, we'll watch this space. Moving on, the Casey game. Either of you bought... Well, unless you went there, you couldn't get the Casey game. I turned on the TV thinking, well, it's been on TV every single week this year, only to find the horse racing on. What happened there?
Well, they played both the Richmond and the Collingwood games respectively. So there were 4 VFL games, and we didn't get shown, and nor did the probably the best game of them all, which was the game involving Port, I think, which was tied at
went
the
into
end,
extra
and
time.
they played extra time. So, we missed out.
It's a bit strange not to... Yeah, I know there's only so much you can drag it out, but with respect to the charitable aspects of it, the old Legends game seemed to have about 115 people in the stands. Whether they could have put one of the bigger VFL games on the Friday night instead, the Richmond or the Collingwood game, and shown 3 if not 4, one day, one night. They've got about 7 different channels, Channel 7, ironically. It's a bizarre decision to me not to show them all, considering how much footy is on TV now and how it's so ruthlessly overexposed as it is. How they would get to a finals series with a lot of finals implications for teams still in the competition, and then choose to only show 2 of the 4 is bizarre.
And it's not just the VFL. Really, I think the AFL sort of missed an opportunity in this week off to not do something a bit bigger. That All-Stars game, well, I'm not interested sort of in that. I watched a little bit of it. There wasn't much tackling. There was a lot of guys that still looked a bit unfit. I don't know. There just wasn't any excitement. I think they need to do something in this week off. I don't know what it is. As you said, they had an opportunity to maybe play one of those VFL games. Well, not in a prime time spot, but give us something. But even then, are people interested? Are the wider community interested in watching seconds players run around? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, the All-Star game's like watching WrestleMania. Like, it's completely fixed, but someone always does something spectacular, like Andrew Jarman get that goal. Yeah, look, I think you put Richmond or Collingwood, so much the better if it was. But it was Collingwood played Essendon, for instance. Like, stick that on the Friday night, and you're going to get a decent crowd in the game just there, and you're going to get a decent audience on TV as well. But if you don't want it, roll out the ABC in their green jackets with Peter Donegan and Phil Cleary and Peter G or something like that. Let them do it. Put it on Fox. There's got to be some aspect to it that you can find a way to show these games, or live stream them on YouTube. Like Lazy says in the chat room, the Box Hill Port game was live streamed on YouTube. So you got 2 games on TV, 1 on YouTube, and then 1 on the radio.
That'd have
been an illegal stream, I'd imagine.
No, they actually do. I watched Casey Coburg earlier in the season. I think it's the VFL to it, and it was at a reasonable standard.
Well, why not do?
Commentators are better than Brian Taylor and Dwayne Russell.
Well, why not do that for the Casey game the other day?
Exactly.
I mean,
so,
we're not going to...
I'm sure, again, they can, for the finals, you might be able to either get the guys to work 2 days or get a second broadcast team in. I'm sure there's a lot of, suburban broadcasting teams out there who would be happy to have a bash at a YouTube call of a game just to get it on. There's going to be overhead to it, but are we investing in football or are we not investing in football? Like, how much is it going to cost to do that? So, look, in the end, our game was such a massive whitewash that it probably would have been terrible television. But in the end, it would make sense to show all the games.
I enjoy a thumping, especially of Geelong, and I like them because I'm not nervous watching them. But I take it neither of you went to the game?
Casey's about a 3-hour round trip for me now.
So I know nothing about it. I know that Pedersen played well, but I can't see. I don't unless there's injuries. I can't see him getting a game.
Hannon played well.
Kicked 3, I think.
Took a screamer.
Yeah, which I was actually. So there must have been cameras down there because I did see the footage of that, and it looked like decent footage. So they were filming it for sure.
Yeah, I think Casey potentially do their own filming for highlights because you often see, here's all the goals this week.
Yeah,
from
there was that on YouTube this week. So yeah, that was
even don't even have commentators. Just press the button and let us hear people yelling nonsense out from the crowd.
We were talking about the Legends game. It was good to see Sean Smith is still running around in that, and he looks as old, which is as young as he ever did. And actually someone made the point, I think, in that thread that we could draft him back and he'd be the first ever father-son-father draftee. So I like that
on the topic of ex-Melbourne forwards, Gary Moorcroft is still playing in the suburbs to this day, and I know we probably forget that he was an ex-Melbourne forward because he played about 2 games. But he's still going. I've just looked up, he'd be 42 this year, and he was still playing in the Northern Football League Division 1, where he has kicked a massive bag of goals. That is absolutely remarkable. Not that I'm sure he'll ever qualify for the Legends game, but it's remarkable that you get someone who, even if he did, he wouldn't be available because he's still playing top-level suburban football at 42 years old.
There was only one Demon in the All-Star game. Surely there are more ex-Demons that could play. Isn't Robbo still running around somewhere during footy season?
Is he still scarred from knocking himself out? Was that last year or the year before where he tried to take one last screamer and necked himself? Hogan's Heroes style.
There'll be a few Ds around that I reckon could still get a game, but I don't know.
Well, I noticed on the Melbourne Twitter just before we went on, they've posted the picture of the 5 club captains, and it's Gary Lyon, James McDonald, Ron Barassi, David Neitz, and Brad Green. And I reckon I'll give. Well, I won't get Ron out there, and I'll give Gary Lyon and David Neitz a pass. But James McDonald and Brad Green look like they could go in a no tackling extravaganza. Like Junior looks bloody fantastic in that photo.
Well, I saw Brad Green at the footy the other week, and he looked like he could still play. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Might have refused to participate in the overall scripting of the game.
You think it was scripted?
Well, there's been about 15 of them, and the margin in every single one of them is like, within 1 and 10 points. So, I'm not saying, but
yeah, I think
the numbers don't lie.
Maybe you're right about the wrestling aspect of it. Bidman says that the talk through the week about the Casey game was one club. All players and coaches and staff were down there to watch. That's great. It was probably a directive of the club to the players, get down there. Not saying they wouldn't go, but yeah, it's good to see.
Flash back to 7 or 8 years ago when Casey made the finals and we took out all our players except I think 2, and they went out and lost a qualifying final to Collingwood by 120 points and got knocked out the next week. Contrast that when they were when it was an affiliation, whereas now it's effectively a reserves team in all but first name. It's such a stronger alignment between the two that you actually want to see the teams do well. You want to see that team do well. You're not just using them like they used to in the past.
So injuries. There's really everyone who's injured is out for the rest of the season. What's the story on Dean Kent? Is he gone for the year?
Yep.
Or is there a possibility that if we go deeper...
It was 3 weeks.
Yeah, it says 2 weeks.
He'd have to come back for a grand final.
Yeah, so that's going to make it difficult. So other than that, we had Hannon and Smith both play, who were previously injured.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the only question mark is Tyson. and whether that hand will be repaired.
So he was training full contact, I believe. I'm just wondering, how, has it healed? Does he wear a brace, or what happens?
I think the issue is the actual wound aspect of it, and that has to heal properly. The fact that the plate is in there is neither here nor there. I think it's a wound issue. So,
can you tackle still and be hit, I guess, without it, not being in pain? I guess is an issue, because you don't want to play someone who, if he gets a knock sort of early on, he's out, and then you're a man down. So I guess that's an issue. What do you guys? I'll go to you, Super Mikado. What do you think your changes are? Viney, they've pretty much come out and said he's playing. So Viney in. Anyone else in?
I mean, at the time I had Hannon in for Kent and Viney in for Tyson.
Yep.
Obviously not thinking Tyson would be any chance. I'm a bit concerned about playing Viney and Tyson. I know just before the GWS game, Viney was on the radio, and whether it was a psychological warfare to plant a false story, but he was basically saying that they wanted him to play as more of a forward midfielder, like with spending a lot of time in the forward line, which just seemed to me to be bonkers, like really just any excuse to get him to play. And then Tyson seemingly went out, and it was like, well, there goes, that solved that problem.
Yeah.
Out goes Tyson, in comes Viney, and which is a real shame for Tyson, because he's played the last few weeks have probably been the best he's played since 2014.
I agree.
But it would worry me trying to force them both in. How footy clubs work it, I'm not sure, but you got Harmses in the form of his life, you got Brayshaw there, you got Oliver there. I just don't want to throw out the balance of what has been working well for us, especially when we're going to be playing against a 3-game ruckman where Max should be absolutely hitting it every time. We want our midfielders getting on the end of it.
I got news for you. I just saw Simon Goodwin on AFL 360, and he also mentioned Viney spending time forward. Yeah. So,
do you reckon?
That's interesting. If Tyson isn't playing and he's still doing it.
Do you reckon Viney's dangerous enough in the forward line to be used there?
I'd prefer other midfielders down there than Viney.
Yeah, as in scoreboard pressure.
Oliver.
Not on exposed form. Do we think potentially Aaron Vandenberg goes up the ground more? Where again, he last couple of weeks, especially the West Coast game, the first half of that game, when it was like, yes, this was what he was doing in his first season. We put him a bit further up, and Viney plays his role. I mean, honestly, he's kicked 27 goals in 95 games, and he's kicked 2 in a game once. So he's not exactly threatening to suddenly rip out 6. But it would offer that defensive pressure that we would sorely need down there. And the only person he's kicked 2 against was Gold Coast. So
is there
exactly
is there
great record of goal kicking?
Is there a possibility that Smith gets a game, possibly allowing Bailey Fritsch to go down forward or on sort of wing? Or is there too many changes?
The thought of Fritsch playing further up the ground is really enticing. Does Smith get in? The question is then who goes? I would have thought if Tyson plays, probably Kennedy Harris is the out. Yeah. I just don't know who goes if Smith is in.
Yeah, I think it's just it's again because the momentum's been broken that it's not. I don't think it's as important as it would be if we were just rolling straight from round 23 into the finals. But at the same time, I think we've got to pretty much stick with what we've been offered. Like Kent is an obvious out, and I think unfortunately for Tyson, we've just got to use that as the excuse. Even if he's right, he doesn't play, and then we look at it next week, hopefully. And see what we do there. But, yeah, I think trying to stuff Viney and Tyson into the same side, as well as Harms, Oliver, Brayshaw, etc., I just feel like that's really it's just trying to find a way to get Viney in that's potentially not going to be beneficial to the team balance.
If you want to join us in this conversation, 0390163666 or Skype us Demonland31. Well, the key matchups, tactical issues, early, well, they sort of made it clear, and I don't know whether this is just foxing or what, they've made it clear that Harms is going to go to Selwood. Now, he started on Selwood last time, did a pretty good job, and then went on to Dangerfield and did a very good job on him. Possibly not in the last quarter when their midfielders sort of ran a bit riot. What do you think, boys? Grapevine?
Yeah, I think there's a chance Harms will shift between them.
Yeah,
I guess over the game, which I think he did last time, and it's a question of Frost or Oscar McDonald.
That's
Hawkins. I think he'd go Frost.
Super Mercado.
I would agree with that. Frost to Hawkins. Again, he was reasonably well held until that last quarter, when the ball was rocketing out of the midfield at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So there's that aspect of it as well, to stop the ball getting down there so quickly. But I think, looking at what Frost did on Franklin, looking at the way we pretty much held their key defenders last week, I think it would be good to start Frost on him. And as for Harms, start him on Selwood, and 5 minutes later you've got the option to do something else, or you've got the option to take off the tag and just set him free. It's a good luxury to have. Yeah. And he kicks goals as well.
Yeah, and it's good to remember Hibberd wasn't playing the last time he played Geelong. Sort of a guy you can sort of plug those holes in front of Hawkins if need be.
And get some value in getting the ball out
of
defence as well, rather than just sort of hoofing it to the wing and watching it come straight back in again. Not that in the last quarter we weren't getting it back to the wing because they were just going centre bounce goal, but you know what I mean. In normal circumstances, Hibberd offers that opportunity, and so does Frost, who was there last time, but he also offers that opportunity to, get rid of the ball, possibly with a little bit less finesse than Hibberd, but the runs and the long kicks to really get the ball out of defence.
I think it's important as well that we don't just, and we were better at this in the last two games, but not just bombing the ball into our forward line. The last time we played them, what's that guy, Stewart for them, and Blitzarves, just their intercept marking just sort of killed us. And they say this over and over, just lower your eyes going forward. And I think without Jesse, I think we've been sort of better at doing that. So hopefully we can do that too.
And I think that's where Melksham comes in really, really importantly. And I've said this before, I think he's so important to this team that having someone there who can not only get on the end of goals, but he can set them up as well is just so important.
There's a beautiful piece of play that he did to me it was the far... not the wing, on the 50-metre line on the far side, on the southern stand side of the ground, where he sort of did a shimmy left and right and got around and kicked a beautiful kick that I think ended up going to Tom McDonald, who handballed it to Petrarca, who kicked a snap over his shoulder. He's just got a beautiful kick into the forward 50, and he's done it all year. Gorney as well is going to be pivotal, not just in the ruck, but getting back as well, and taking those marks.
Yep.
Any other tactics or key matchups that you guys see?
I can see us playing our own game.
Rather than
beyond those two that we've sort of talked about, they've got to worry about us, and particularly the fact that everyone's anticipating Gawn will win the ruck against Abbott. So yeah, they've got to worry about us rather than the reverse.
So what's happened? They've got the other ruckman. Who's the big guy? What's his name? We used to play for the Suns, I think.
Reece Stanley.
No, not Reece Stanley. The other guy. So he's the other guy. Zach Smith.
This says it all. This says it all about the Gold Coast Suns. Like, who knows? Just could be anyone.
Anyway, what's happened to their
Reece Stanley play for? No,
anyway, but he's injured. He's not going to play. Yep, I'll back Maxie in. Umpires for Friday were announced today, and we've got Razor Ray, who some people dislike him. I think he's been all right for us. The one thing that he does that I don't like is umpiring, being the third umpire away. That kind of annoys me.
I think he sometimes calls decisions that he should let go because he needs to feel he likes to inject himself into the game. I actually couldn't. When I saw that thread come up, I thought, I don't give a stuff about the umpires. It's all equal. They're all as bad or as good as each other, except Ray is the one that likes to intervene in the game. So I hope they just let it go because that's what you want at finals time.
There'll be a few bullshit video reviews, unnecessary video reviews. I think that's his
exactly. Yep.
I think someone put it perfectly. I can't find it in the thread, but they said, well, they don't care. They don't want to know who the umpires are, and we shouldn't know who they are because we shouldn't notice the umpiring. They should just get on with the job. But there are a few of them that just like to insert themselves into the game, and Razor Ray is one of them.
There's always one that everyone gets on. Like, I remember in the 90s it was Darren Goldspink, and then it was Scott McLaren, and then it was Ray Chamberlain. And when he goes, it'll be someone else who everyone just, that's the umpire that everyone knows the name of. Like, a few people, we all know the names of a few other umpires, and there's
Glenn
a lot of
James
people who have conspiracy
80s.
theories about particular umpires, but Ray's the flavour of the month one that everybody knows.
In the umpiring thread, D. Zephyr said he wouldn't mind having Roden as one of the goal umps and seeing him give a cheeky grin for each of our 20 goals. So, let's hope that's...
I don't know, we need to play, we've played that up before when someone kicked a pearler of a goal and he had a smile on his face, and he only played about 10 games for us. It's not like, it's not like the goal umpire's James McDonald or something.
No, it's not. Did you see Danaher this week in the or yesterday or today it was in the paper? It's good to see him. Of course, he's going to get on board with the D's.
It was good to see, and he said all the right things. He said it's not about me.
Yeah, which was great.
So excited for the club and the supporters. So the Rev.
I just love. I love that he's still passionate about the D's. There's coaches, sort of come and go, but I don't know. He's got a soft spot still for us, and he could just as well have that soft spot for Essendon, and wear an Essendon scarf and do all the the MMD stuff with the Dons. But he's still a demon.
And look, I would say in the unlikely event that we actually win the flag, I would love him to present the cup. I know sort of the popular pick is Barassi.
Or Barassi.
Yeah, what do you do there? That's look, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Barassi's got more clubs than Tiger Woods, so I don't doubt that he's into us. But I guess that's a generational thing. There'd be the mid generation before me, were he still alive, would be saying Robbie Flower. The people who are a bit older are probably saying Barassi. But to me, the glory years were, apart from 91, the Djakovic extravaganza, the glory years of my supporting life were 98 and 2000. So that's why, to me, and especially given that, the situation that he's in, where he's really fighting what will eventually be a losing battle, it would be amazing to see him, have that opportunity to hand the cup over. He's got Essendon blood in him, but Ron Barassi's got Sydney, North Melbourne, and Carlton blood in him as well. So
No.
Ron is obviously
Ron-
the legend, but I would love to see Danaher do it. But mind you, I wouldn't care if Coco the Clown did it if it was someone handing Nathan Jones and Jack Viney a premiership cup.
Well, I think the fact that had we won a premiership in between 64 and now, I think you could make a case for someone else. But I think it's got to be Barassi. I'm going to disagree with you there, Super Mikado, and I'm sure Grapevine is as well.
He was out the door when we won that premiership.
That's true.
The thing with Barassi is he's still a demon at heart. He's virtually at every home game. He's always wearing his Melbourne tie or a Melbourne pin or both. And certainly for those of us even who were, I guess what you described as the Robbie Flower generation, Super Mikado, for us, Barassi was still a giant figure, even though Flower was the best player at the time. And for the early years of his coaching period, there was the expectation that we were going to come good. But Barassi was just larger than anything in football, I guess, along with sort of Ted Whitten perhaps, but he was everywhere. So, I guess for those of us even a bit further back, Barassi would be the one, even though Neil, there's a lot to say for Neil too.
Like I said, anyone will do.
Exactly.
In the end, this is a definite first week of the finals discussion because in about 2 weeks' time, it will be anyone will do.
Well, it could be next week. We could be all crying in our beers. So we'll take it 1 week at a time. The one thing I did sort of, we talked about a bit last week, the road to the cup and who we'd like to play, and obviously, got to get over this week. I understand that. Super Mikado, what other results you want to go our way this week?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we play the loser of Richmond Hawthorn and then the winner of Collingwood West Coast.
Correct.
So effectively, if we win, this goes against a lot of people's belief in, but I want Collingwood to beat West Coast.
Yes, so do I.
But if we lose, then I hope West Coast beats them by 200.
Oh, of course.
If we lose, I'm going back to my pure philosophy of if Melbourne don't win the flag, I want an interstate team to win because then I don't have to hear about it.
Exactly.
I don't have to deal with happy people. And the good news is now it's not except GWS because Scully's not going to be playing. So I'm more than happy for them to win the flag.
Very nice.
God bless. Win your flag and with your 27 fans because he'll be standing there without the premiership medallion with probably several $1 million in his bank account, but he will not have the premiership medallion. So I'm confident that should we not progress and GWS do progress, that it's not going to cause me heartache in my life to see them win a premiership.
No,
but yeah, so look, I guess Richmond Hawthorn, toss a coin on that. We didn't play particularly well against either of them this year, but that was both going to be pretty much 5 months before this game takes place. It's a pretty fearsome lineup for the idea of having to go through either Richmond or Hawthorn and potentially West Coast in a prelim in Perth. It's not going to be easy, but I'm certainly willing to have a crack at least at one of the big two next week.
Now, I know it's still a long way off, but I've been thinking about this. It's been in the back of my mind is which team do you want to play in the grand final? No, not about who you want to play. I'm talking about what strip we're going to have to wear. So which team gets into the grand final that doesn't force us to wear the disco jumper?
Well, I mean, I'd sign up to the disco jumper, but I especially after last year where Richmond had that big kerfuffle and then stuff, they won the flag anyway, so no one cared.
Because I think there's only one team in the finals that force us to wear the disco jumper against, and that's Richmond. Even though we play Richmond during the year in our normal strip. Do you think they would force us? And I know it's weeks in advance and we could be out this week, but it's hypothetical.
Yeah,
We've got time to kill.
It's worth asking the question.
The AFL would force us to wear the light blue Guernsey, I'm positive.
Well, the ultimate moment for us fans of the disco jumper.
I'm a fan of the. We've done very well in the disco jumper. I've my whole life I've dreamed about someone holding the cup aloft, and it's always in my mind. It's always been the navy blue. I don't know how I'm going to be able to reconcile that, but weeks away.
It's like the Premiership Cup. They could be wearing anything. They could swap the jumpers and be wearing West Coast jumpers. Oh, it wouldn't matter.
Look, it's all moot. They can wear pajamas for all I care if they win the thing. But yes, let's 1 week at a time. That mantra. Boys, any other topics you want to bring up? Do we need to any key issues we need to talk about? Obviously, without us having to dissect a game this week. From last week, mind you. Anything else?
Not Faye.
It's very odd to be at this time of the year and not be into the famous D-list trade draft cycle. I know, obviously, Casey being a regular finals contender, we often have that delay in getting to the D-listings, but it just seems strange to have entered September and not to have that front of mind. So I don't know if there is any sort of hot trade chat surrounding us, or we're just waiting for this to play out this month and then we'll look at it. I hear rumour and innuendo that the gaff angle is off now, so I don't know if we would be into, as they like to say, any of the other big names.
Well, are there any? Are we likely to land a big name anywhere or get someone? Because it seemed it was announced today that Lynch has chosen Richmond as his team. Dalhouse has walked reportedly from the Bulldogs. Are we likely to get anyone?
Oh, look, I wouldn't have thought it was going to be a big hitter. I would have thought, if anyone, it's going to be your gap filler players more than anything.
For anyone who is listening, we have opened up a sub forum on the board. The draft, all draft talk was filling up the main board, so we've opened up the draft trade and cheese board. So go there for all your draft and trade talk and cheese talk.
And I see in the chat room, Bin Man says there's rumours that Scully might be traded, which I reckon's good because we need someone to clean the toilets. So an eighth rounder on minimum wage to clean the toilets, and he can look after Gillan McLaughlin's cousin's kids while he's at it.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, I think we might leave it there. Mikado, you want to plug your stuff?
Yep, I'm very happy to get out on a personal attack on Tom Scully. You can catch me on Twitter on Demon Blog, at Demon Blog even, or on the web at demonblog.com. You can go back and check out all the archives of all the nightmare years, or demonwiki.org, which also, for all those games in the Demon Blog era, 2005 onwards, there's a link to the particular post for that game. So definitely plenty to go back and look at, and no longer cry over, but look at and say, how bloody well have we done to get back to this position now?
Well, how far back do your archives go? When did you start blogging?
2005.
Okay, so you would have what was your
finals chat?
Finals chat. So
yep.
This corresponding game in 2005 against the Cats.
Do you want to know something outrageous about that game?
Yep.
And it's not the
Jeff
one of
Ryan.
your listeners who engaged in adult conduct with his then girlfriend in one of the disabled toilets at the MCG that day. I actually chose to not take a day off work for that game. I just went to work, listened to it on the radio. I rode those last 3 weeks of that season like nobody's business. And then it got to that, and I just choked and went, I'm not going to go to that game. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever done in my life, and I feel guilty about it now. There is no There is no post for that game.
Wow. Okay.
Didn't even get a guest reporter to do it. In the early days, last time I was a shift worker, there's several times a year the guest reporters were called in. Didn't even get him to do a guest report. So that was obviously the wonky first year of Demon Blog. Kicked off with the classic Enter Spanderman headline for former Brisbane ruckman Lane Spanderman. Wizard Cup round 1 versus Brisbane, where it all kicked off. So yeah, it didn't really hit its straps until 2007 when the distress began. And obviously, if you go through it, you can follow the upturn in 2010 and the regular up and down turns in 2011 before it all went totally wrong. And yes, you can even go back to this year and enjoy some of the big hitters when we poleaxed a few teams in the middle of the year.
Well, how very Hawthorn / Geelong supporter of you not going to a final, thinking that finals are going to grow on trees. How wrong you were in the next decade plus.
Exactly. I was stupid then, and now I'm like clinging on to this like it's worth $1 million.
And now you spent 16 hours on a computer trying to get a ticket.
Correct. Whereas then, I was a moron.
Yeah.
And I even remember where I was. Like, I remember everything about that game where I was. I wasn't having as much fun, certainly, as your listener was having. But then again, I wasn't having my face kicked off like Jeff White. So, bit of both. And what I regret about not going to that game is missing Paul Wheatley doing his hammy and ending up playing at full forward because he couldn't run. And still kicking a goal.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hope something memorable like that happens this time to Geelong players, and they still have the same result we do and lose by 10 goals.
Yeah, well, that game was looked like it was over. I was just having a look at the scoreline. I can only remember. I just remember where I sat that game. I can't remember anything else about it except seeing the vision of Jeff White. But it looked like the game was over at half time, judging on the score. So I'm glad it's been.
The similarities between the 2 years. This time, we suffered the heartbreaking defeat to Geelong late in the season. That year, it was us that did it to them. So he is hoping for the reverse of that.
That would be great. All right. If you would like, if you'd like to listen to, if you're listening now live and you missed part of the show, you can either listen through SoundCloud or on iTunes. As I mentioned earlier, we're on Facebook, facebook.com /Demonland31, Twitter @Demonland, Instagram @Demonland31, or YouTube, search for Demonland Podcast. Or just come to demonland.com, sign up and enjoy the craziness that happens all year round. All right. Well, we will be back next week, win or lose. Either we'll be singing or we'll be crying, but we'll be here. Go those Demons.
Football machine to take us to the top.